just want to say a couple of more things about the Ryan Garcia deal and clear up. Some people have reached out to me, and I want to just clear a couple of things up. Number one, going into the fight, I wanted Devin Haney to win. I didn't agree with Ryan's antics and all the games he was playing and the crap that he was posting on social media. You know, especially the things that had to do with the Illuminati and all this other crazy stuff, whatever it was. I'm not a fan of that. But hey, if that's what he thinks he wants to do to sell the fight, and it makes him more money, more power to him, that's great, whatever. And at the same time, I'm not the biggest fan of Devin Haney. I think they're both good fighters, and I was expecting a good fight, and I saw a good fight. I saw a great fight, as a matter of fact. It's one of the better fights that I've seen in a while. I think, Ryan was, I'm not going to go through the whole fight. Ryan was landing some huge shots, and Haney getting off the canvas 3 times. That's good stuff. That's a good, high-level, entertaining fight, period. The thing with the drug tests that a lot of people don't seem to understand is when they take a blood sample the night before the test and they send it to Vada, to the labs to get tested, it doesn't come back right away. It's not like taking a COVID test where you stick the thing up your nose and then, you swirl it around or whatever and it comes up either positive or negative. There are literally hundreds of substances that Vada tests for. Go on their website, look at their list of banned substances, and a lot of them are, they're not just anabolic steroids or things like that, Ostarine. A lot of them are stimulant drugs or drugs that are, like diuretics or whatever, used for weight cutting. And there's all kind of things that are banned for competition. Okay, with that said, I also believe that a lot of fighters, I don't want to say all of them because, I don't know if it's all of them, but I do believe that a lot of fighters and a lot of athletes use some kind of performance-enhancing drug at one time or another. Obviously, fighters, when they're in training camp and they're getting tested, they shouldn't be on anything. But when they're recovering afterwards, they might go on some of the things that are on the banned substance list just to recover, okay? Or to train or to keep their careers going. I don't have a problem with that. Of course, as a fan, I do have a big problem with fighters going in that are on some kind of performance-enhancing drug, because boxing is a dangerous sport. I said this in my other video. And if you have an unfair advantage over your opponent, and something happens, you're guilty. You're liable for that. And you should do time for that. You should get your license taken away. I was outspoken about, I'm not going to name the names now, but there was a fighter, matchroom fighter, who was caught taking steroids, and he knocked out a fighter that I know personally in a previous fight. And the question is, was he taking the steroids then? Because this was a guy that never got knocked out before. And what kind of damage is that going to do to the guy? Maybe not immediately, but when you're talking about concussions and CTE and things like that don't show up until later on in life and can have, devastating effects when you're older because you had to take some stupid drugs. All right, that's not right. So anyway, you take these tests and they don't come back right away because they're testing for hundreds of substances, and then by that time it's too late to cancel the fight anyway. No one's going to do that. All right, not with all the preparation and the money involved. Even if they did have the results back, which they don't. So if they get the results back a week after the fight, a couple of days or a week after the fight, whatever, and the test comes up positive for a substance, then they have to decide how to deal with it. And, you know, you can look on social media, you see the letter that Vada sends out, your test result came back, and, you know, this was found in it. In Ryan's case, it was at Ostarine. There have been other fighters that have popped for Ostarine also. Although it's not, I don't think it's technically classified as an anabolic steroid. It is used for muscle hypertrophy. And, you know, again, there was some experimental uses with the drug for people that were suffering from muscle loss, could take this drug and possibly grow muscles back. But the scientific research was showing that it does not give you strength gains, only muscle size. Maybe that's why it's not that used that often. Anyway, I don't know why people use it, but apparently some of them do. But there's also a lot of cases in the scientific literature of people taking what they think is one kind of supplement that was accidentally contaminated with another substance when they're made in the same manufacturing facility. Again, that could have been the case here with that ashwagandha that Ryan was taking, that could have had some, you know, contamination in it or whatever. I don't know. But it is possible, and there have been cases of it in the past. Those scenarios are just as likely as, you know, coming out and saying that Vada was responsible or paid off or whatever to come out with this report. So Ryan's got I saw him on social media today. He said he was going to get the B sample tested, which I think is the right thing to do. I think any reasonable person would agree with that. That's the way he can vindicate himself. But I don't like the idea that Vada would be doing the testing also. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I would not trust a guy like Victor Connie or anyone, even though he says he's not involved with Vada now or any of the testing. I'm sure he knows people there. He helped create the organization. You know what I mean? He should have that blood sample tested by an independent lab, the same way that Alicia Baumgartner did when she was allegedly positive she had real anabolic steroids on that first test that were, you know, tremendously strong drugs, much more so than this Ostarine stuff. But from what I understand, there was a break in the chain of custody in her blood sample. And what that means is that they could have given somebody else's blood results and thought that they were hers. So she had her B sample tested by an independent organization. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but they found that her blood was clean. All right, so these things are crazy. There's a lot of different possibilities. It does nothing to promote the sport of boxing. And of course, as fans, we don't want to see this kind of thing happen. We have Canelo Alvarez fighting tomorrow night, who has, you know, he popped positive for steroids twice in the past. Hopefully he's not on anything now. You know, for this is a pretty big fight for him. And, you know, he's getting older, so, you know, there's going to be questions. I'm sure he's going to be heavily scrutinized. You know, people, they're going to be looking at him a little more carefully now because this scandal is fresh in everyone's mind. And that's just the way it works. One thing happens to one person, and then that's in your mind when you see the next fight. So, then you have who I think my pound for pound #1 fighter in the world, Naoya Inoue, fighting Monday morning. And you see a lot of people saying, well, why does he fight in the U.S.? He's got to be taking something, you know, he's got to be doing steroids, or, you know, or he wants to wrap his hands a certain way that's illegal in it. And they're making all kinds of excuses, hating on this guy, when he's clearly the best of the best. That's all there is to it. So, boxing is a sport that we love. These kind of things just tarnish its reputation. They take away from the fighters. They take away from the credibility of the sport. And, you know, looking at the society that we live in, look what's happening with the NFL lately, with all their rule changes and equipment, you know, changes, modifications, helmets, things like that to make it safer. What are they going to do to boxing? They're going to take something up, you know, soon. That's going to detract from the sport. That's just my belief, especially if guys are doing, you know, performance-enhancing drugs in fights, and there's, you know, injuries because of it. So anyway, that's my rant. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or don't care one way or the other. But that's all I got to say.